I'm coming to you this week from Denver, Colorado. I'm actually speaking to you the morning after the seminar last night. What a great time we had. I was interacting with the audience and I asked them a question. I said, can you name the 5 anecdotal accounts in the Gospels where there is a fairly complete instance of Jesus casting out demons? And they were thinking about it and somebody yelled out legion. Well, the moment the word legion came forth, a woman in the audience screamed, and I went to her immediately. She was manifesting demons. I brought her up front, and I worked with her. And I'll never forget her talking about the pain she suffered as a child. At 5 years of age, her mother, who was involved in witchcraft, threw knives at her to kill her. Well, she had spirits of witchcraft, Jezebel, and murder, and they were all cast out, and she was delivered, and she was so happy afterwards. So if you've never been to one of our seminars, you never know what's going to happen. Exciting things always do. So I encourage you to look at our calendar on our website and come and see us in a seminar city. And be sure to schedule a personal encounter when you do. But I want to talk to you about a link somebody sent me to an article that recently appeared in the London Times. It was a satirical, tongue-in-cheek article. It was an obituary of the death of common sense. And the writer gave several instances of how common sense has died in our society. I agreed with many of them. One of them was, common sense died when the public schools had to notify parents if a student needed to take an aspirin, but didn't have to tell them if they were giving advice on where to get an abortion. Common sense died when a burglar entering your home didn't need to fear being shot by you, but in fact could later sue you for assaulting them if you dared to intervene with their burglary. Well, as I read this article, I thought, what about the death of common sense in the church? So I came up with a couple of examples. Common sense died when liberal pastors started promoting a strictly leftist political agenda with fake compassion and ignored the gospel of Jesus Christ to save souls. Common sense died in the church when too many preachers, particularly those on television, thought it was more important to smile and say soothing things rather than to warn people in fear and trembling of eternity in hell. Common sense died when prosperity preachers started convincing people that success was a sign of divine approbation rather than the blessing of obedience. Common sense died when too many people started interpreting dreams as having prophetic significance. It was just the result of late-night overindulgence, gastronomically speaking. Common sense died when deliverance was ostracized as being unnecessary, and those of us who cast out demons were deemed to be unbiblical. And I see common sense dying every day in the church, particularly with a lot of the rise of hyper-Calvinism today, suggesting that you don't really need to play any part in your salvation. God picked you and has done it all, so don't worry. Well, that's in one extreme, and common sense is dying at the other end, where all the miraculous, including deliverance, is denied. And I think common sense is dying when too many prophecy preachers just pick up a newspaper, read a headline, see in it some apocalyptic significance and get people all whipped up about it, rather than just being the flow of events in the world in which we live. I think we need to return to simple common sense and the preaching of the gospel. Keep it as simple. Declaring that Jesus is the Son of God risen from the dead, and that you need to be saved to avoid an eternity in hell. We need to return to common sense, that Jesus said to preach the gospel to cast out demons. Common sense. Common sense tells us that Christians can have demons. Common sense tells us that Christians need deliverance from demons. And common sense tells us that if we're truly following the Lord, our job is to set the captives free.